All right, so today, the first artist, the artist I was thinking that is an artist of reference, um, and an important artist in art history, but you know, it's up to you how you perceive it. Um, well, it's not disputed. I'm just saying, it's an important artist. Um, and these paintings will possibly explain to you why. His name is David Hockney. David Hockney. And the spelling of his name is Hockney. Now, the first painting I'm going to recommend that you go and look at, um, that you look it up online or how else you could see it. It's called My Parents. It's oil on canvas. And I want you to ask yourself, I want you to first look at it reflectively. You know, um, this man's eye for detail is incredible. It really is. And and the way that he does it, in my perception, is so honest to probably the way that he sees it. The way that he envisions the things that he intended to put down. It's not disputed. It's like he honestly he doesn't contest the the initial idea of why he thinks it's important to do it. So when you look at the My Parents, what I want you to consider is ask yourself these questions. What can you learn about his parents in this picture? Now he's showing you his parents. So when you look at this image, how do you perceive his parents? When I looked at it, I thought, when I looked at it, I loved it right away. And I'll tell you why, and I'll keep it simple. I loved, and this is in order, I love the father's concentration. He 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 has something in his hands, and I love the father's concentration. The second thing I loved in the picture, in the painting, is the mother's value and how pleased she is for how happy his father is with whatever is in his hands. She appears to be very appreciative of her family. Um, the second painting, but that's all I'll give you. You look and see what else you can find. The second painting I'll give you is a bigger interior with blue terrace and garden by David Hockney. Now, ask yourself, what can you pick up? What can you pick up in this painting about color palette, about purposeful intended use of color. And in your process, in your developmental artistic process, are you honest about your leaning towards the colors that you select in your work? The reason why I say this is because just look at the painting and think how honest it is in his intended use of color. Um, and how can that motivate you in your selection of your color palette? The colors that you intend to use, how do they identify, after a while, your personality, who you really are? Also, the mind of how impressive and vast his understanding of there is a it's important to mention in art there's something that people can communicate to you, but other people, we cannot do this part for you. Another artist or another teacher can't do this part for you. um, we can't train it for you, only you can train it for yourself. It's called perspective. When you look at this painting, what can you learn about, or when you look up David Hockney, what can you learn about making best use of time in training your perspective view? Do you know what a perspective is? It's a view. Training your perspective view. I don't, nowadays they overuse certain terms to describe perspective. I'll just keep it as perspective view. And then you do the research on the word, and then I won't communicate the over commonalities of the term. Because as an individual, as an individual, the idea with art is um, having understanding so as not to copy, but so as to understand what's possible. So, in perspective, it's a personal view. No one can do it for you. It's how you view whatever it is you're looking at. Now, in the next painting, it's called Woodgate Woods. I think I got that right. It's, let me see. I think that's what it's called, Woodgate Woods. And I'd like for you to, now you have, now after looking at David Hockney's work, now you have an absolute knowledge and understanding that David Hockney knows for his certainty. Um, Impact. Um, there's a absolute honest way of communicating time and at what time, and artists may decide either to paint or have uh, taken in this environment at the time, when they were there, and the contrast of the subject. So keep in mind, subject. I'm going to give you a couple of terms. Keep in mind the subject. Keeping in mind the contrast, the time, and what is it about. It's not in this, it's not necessarily use the color palette. What can you pick up in his technique on natural sunlight and time? What time was it? You know, can you study this painting? Can you look at this painting enough to know what time it possibly was? Even if you don't know the answer, the idea is push put yourself in the imagination of the artist and ask yourself these questions and see what you can learn. And then when you get ready to paint something, you know, sometimes you have to ask yourself these questions. What is it about your subject? And at what time are you deciding to paint the subject? And does that have an impact on what is conveyed in your in the final analysis of your work? Okay, that's all I got for y'all today. David Hockney. Okay, I have I've started to go. I do this. I started to go and really talk about it. Look at do this. Okay, do the interviews too. Look at his interviews too. Okay, that's all I'm gonna say. Because when it's artists where I find them very interesting, I can't tell you how to think about them because I have a lot of respect for what they do. I just find it interesting. I do. I find it interesting. And I think that you should consider it too. And then the next artist I'll mention this week will be an artist of someone that I believe that people are more familiar with. Have a good day. Bye.